everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Melissa, let's talk about exercise.
Ugh.
Did you exercise this week?
No. Well, when I was getting chased by one of the dogs. Because I had snacks in my pocket.
Technically, I think that counts because you have snacks in your pocket. Well, that's an unorthodox motivation technique. Like,
don't knock it till you try it.
Put food in my pockets and have dogs chase me around.
Don't knock it till you try it.
Whatever works. But I had sent you an article earlier this week. Specifically about, it was actually titled, "We're Treating Stress, Anxiety, and Depression All Wrong."
Right, exactly.
So it was kind of like it's like an intriguing title. Like,
sure.
Like, how are we treating it wrong? Like, don't we have like an entire science
arsenal
around helping people with stress, anxiety, and depression?
Mm-hmm.
And the article was talking about how there's another not prescribed way that you can really help yourself in this way.
Yes, exactly.
And it's exercise.
Right. Yes. And I immediately went, oh, I don't know. Like, I really did go into that, because what I didn't want the article to do was to minimize any of the current things that people are given to manage. It wasn't that at all. It's not that at all. It's completely different than where I went. So it's very interesting.
For just full disclosure on our conversation is, like, we're not recommending that you do what your doctor prescribes and only jump into this idea of exercise. But no, we're not. But it is an interesting conversation. As I was digging into it a little bit, because like there is like really good science behind the link between exercise and like your mood,
100%,
your brain function, all sorts of other things.
Yeah, and depression and anxiety. I mean, it's many, many times over. So right after you sent that article to me a few days ago, whenever it was, the very next day I was on LinkedIn, and there was a TED Talk, and it was a woman, and her talk was the exact same. And I was like, that's weird. We were just talking about this. Yeah.
So not that I'm super innovator about everything, but for like a decade at my company, we've had what I call the 30-minute a day policy. You know this? You remember this?
Oh, yes, I do.
Why are you
I'll let you fit. Truly? Yeah. Because I picture in your old break room at your old building, a bunch of hairy dudes wearing pajama pants doing yoga.
Is that a picture you saw that got leaked out? Because that is 100% accurate.
Yes, I know that. I walked in to meet with you, and I was like, oh, Mike, what is that? Oh,
you did? You saw that in real life?
Yes.
How terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But you were doing it.
You.
Well,
I forgot
that.
We had,
I forgot that. Yes.
Yeah, for quite a while, we had a pretty interesting schedule around people who you wouldn't expect to maybe engage in an activity like yoga. Right. Literally come with yoga mats and jammy pants.
I know. Jammy pants. So, I'm sorry that I'm just distracting us from this extremely important thing right now, because I have this visual that I'm finding humorous. And you have been on this for a very long time, and it's very true.
A very
Like
long time.
you
Yeah.
encouraged people and have been encouraging people in your work, actually to the place where actually I don't think you encouraged, I think you enforced a 30
Yep.
minute something something.
Yep. We'll actually, part of our one-on-one cadence
Mm-hmm.
with, everyone's manager,
Yeah.
is to specifically ask about how have you been doing on 30 minutes a day.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Yeah. 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 You have been on
so
this
it's
for
not
quite some
like
time.
we don't enforce it like super hard, but it is,
Mm-hmm.
we culturally reinforce it by asking. So here's my mantra. Um, Everyone's, a knowledge worker. They're sitting at their desk all day,
Right.
and we pay them to use their brain.
Right.
And the only way their brain works any better is if we get some oxygen
Mm-hmm.
up there
Mm-hmm.
to turbocharge it. Um, and until we can inject people with more oxygen,
Yeah.
the only way to do that is to move your body. So it is in my company's best interest
Mm-hmm.
to get people to move their body during the day
Right.
so that they get more oxygen up into their gray matter and they perform better.
Yeah.
Right? So it's
Yeah.
actually fairly self-serving for me.
Right. 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 Right.
Like I want a higher functioning organization. So I'm
Right.
going to do the things that makes my folks' brains work better. And that's
Yeah.
the only one I know what to do is,
Yeah. Yeah.
have them move around a little bit.
Well, and then, I mean, this is going exactly to the kinds of things that you're going to talk about with this article, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure. But in your workplace today, it's modified a lot. Your workforce looks very different. It's much larger. It's very diverse. And now you're doing things like having people meet and play pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing all kinds of stuff like that to
Yep.
exercise and be together at the same time.
So I think I obviously am a big fan of this idea that exercise affects your mood,
Mm-hmm.
and your brain function. I don't let's not talk about work
Okay.
too much
Yep.
because
Sure.
I really think we should talk about how exercise can affect you like more personally from an emotional perspective.
Yep, go for it.
'Cause,
I agree.
right, like-
Start us off. Yep. Yeah.
Higher cognitive output is good for your job, but does that make you any happier? Maybe.
Probably not.
Here's an interesting thing. I gotta find it. I saw this super interesting stat. Oh, so exercising. Like I asked you if you exercised, you gave me like a little,
Yeah.
answer like you didn't
Yeah.
really want to.
I do. I do. I do.
But no one really wants to. Like I exercise multiple times a week. I've been specifically, I do strength training,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like lifting weights. And I'm not, this is not because I want to be a big muscle builder
No,
guy.
exactly.
Right?
Right.
I'm not.
Mhm.
I've been doing this for years, and I'm like still tiny. But so I do the strength training thing, and it's training till muscle failure, which is not a very comfortable thing. It's like it's
Right.
really hard work.
Right.
Every single week, I'm like, I don't want to go do that, and I'm just looking for every excuse possible to not go do it. After like doing it every single week for like the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years,
Right.
after totally feeling the positive effects of it, right? After preaching it to whoever will listen to me,
Mm-hmm.
after all of that stuff, I still every single week don't want to go. Why is that?
I don't know. I feel the same way. I feel guilty about what I'm not doing, even when I'm doing something. I think that's a huge part of just trying to get over that little hump to recognize what the true benefits are.
Well, I think it's deeper than that because I read this phrase that said the desire to exercise is not a strong evolutionary trait.
Mm.
So if you think about that, like we are so driven by these really deep sort of monkey brain
Yeah.
primitive
Yeah. Yeah.
things still,
Mm-hmm.
that the idea that exercise is not one of them
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, usually if you're in hard exercise way back in the day, it was because you were being chased by something trying to eat you for lunch,
Right. So like
right?
we
Or
didn't
you were
need
chasing game or you were
yeah.
doing something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't need exercise to survive back when we were living in the woods,
No.
right? It
No. No.
that was natural.
Right.
What we needed was like food and shelter.
Exactly.
So the
Mm-hmm.
evolutionary, like the real deep
Yeah.
parts of our brain, really tuned to finding food, finding calories,
Mm-hmm.
right? Finding these things that are going to help us survive in an environment where that stuff is really rare and hard to come by.
Right.
Well, we don't live in that environment. We live
No.
in an environment of abundance.
Right. Well, come back to that article. I want to talk about that article.
Yeah.
I think that is it was a very succinct way of putting together why it matters. You know, like and what things constitute exercise, because I think there's a fair number of people on the pod right now that are probably ready to hit the stop button because they don't want to start running. And I think that we really need to define what we're talking about here, like from this article's perspective and also from that TED Talks perspective, which I should try to find the name of that before we release this pod. But it's all about like what kinds of exercise, how much exercise, and how often.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have there was a very direct and specific link to how even a walk would release particular chemicals in your body that would soothe out your anxiety or your sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And that the more that you did it consistently, even if it was 20 minutes a day and it's walking, that had huge benefits.
You got super close. 22
Okay.
minutes a day.
Oh, hey, that's pretty good
That's
for
good.
not being a detail person. Yeah, 22 minutes a day. That's right.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying is it doesn't have to be 22 minutes of like the most strenuous exercise
No.
you've ever done. It can be
No.
easy. It can be like walking, like you said, playing pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
playing hacky. We used to stand around the warehouse and play hacky sack all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Back
that's
before you were
great.
doing strategic planning.
Yeah, before we grew up and had to run an actual business. Um, if you're working, right? A thing we encourage a lot is take phone calls on a walk. Take a walking meeting either in
Yeah.
person or
Yeah.
just walk around your block while you're on that hour-long
Right.
Zoom call where
Or a treadmill.
you're only listening, and maybe have to pipe in every so often.
Exactly.
Use that time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there's other things you can do, like too. Like, have you ever heard of this this plank challenge
Oh,
where you do like the plank where you're like on your
yeah.
elbows,
Yeah. Like
and
the push up except on your elbows.
yeah, and you just hold it. Then all you do
Yeah.
is like you just hold a plank and you do like whatever 10 seconds today and 15 seconds tomorrow and 20 seconds, and just build it up over time.
To what? What's the max? That sounds horrible.
Planking all 24 hours a day.
Eat your breakfast and plank.
Yeah, they feed me food through a tube. No,
Balance your checkbook in a plank.
I've heard of people doing plank for like 10 minutes, which sounds
Oh, wow. That sounds
terrible.
terribly painful.
Like yesterday, I did plank for 2 minutes, and at the
Oh,
end
that's
of
a
it,
lot.
it's just like,
You're shaking. Yeah.
yeah,
I've done that. I've done
it's
a
really
lot of
hard.
that.
But
Yeah.
you can do that. We had a pull-up, like a pull-up. I would say it's
Bar or
challenges.
whatever?
Yeah, we had a pull-up. We had a pull-up bar at the office.
Uh-huh.
And then we did this thing. It was like 30 days of pull-ups, and the idea is that, like, because no one can do. I can't do a pull-up
I
Pull-ups are
can't do a pull-up.
impossible.
I can't do it. Why is that?
I don't know.
Can't do it.
You ever go to the state fair where like the
Yes.
army's got
Yes.
the pull-up thing? It's like if you can do,
A
15 of
challenge.
these, we'll give you a car. And then like these big muscle dudes show up and they can't do it.
No, but then a 12-year-old girl will go and just think bink, bink, bink,
hmm
bink, up, down, up, down, up, down.
But we did a
Oh,
thing where it's like the day one you did one pull-up and then day two you did two pull-ups and you built up. So you can kind of play these games with this
yeah.
stuff.
Hmm.
The other thing that I find personally for exercise, it's so hard to do by myself.
Yeah. I agree. Um, you know what? It is hard to do it by yourself unless you love it. I mean, I actually think for me, the hardest part about exercising is finding the kind of exercise that you really like.
Hmm.
And because for years I was not athletic in school. I'm way more in shape, just everything now than I was when I was in school,
Hmm.
even. And it's because I played soccer, hated it, tried track, hated it. Like all of these things I just hated. And so I assumed I hated all exercise.
Mm.
But I don't think that's the case with anyone. I think every single person can find a kind of exercise that they really love, that feels easy for them to do. But so many people will try one or two things, whatever this, like pickleball is a big thing right now.
Hmm.
So some people might say, I hate pickleball. I don't like any of those sports. And I'm not athletic. But that last statement isn't actually true at all. It's just they haven't found the thing that they really like.
Yeah, and I think everybody is athletic. I mean, like look
Yeah.
at like our bodies are amazing.
Yeah.
No matter what shape your body is,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I mean, it's carrying you around all day, every day,
Yeah.
helping you move through space and grab things and lift things
Mhm.
and
Right.
um
Right.
it's great. So and everyone has the ability to use their body in a way to benefit them.
Yeah. And I do really like this topic, though, of this article of saying not only is exercise, quote, good for you, but exercise can actually undo anxiety and can undo depression within you.
Yeah,
Like,
so let's talk about a couple of these
yeah.
numbers, some of the statistics that I really thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So a survey from last fall said that 27% of US adults are so stressed that they can't function normally.
Oh, oh,
That's a lot.
that is amazing numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over
So
20, yeah, over a fourth of
a
us.
fourth of us, and
One in every four persons.
right. And it's nervousness, anxiety,
Hmm.
sadness, depression,
Yeah.
um, fatigue, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
When you're kind of in a down mood, you have no energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and so that's a big number, like you said.
Hmm.
Um, and so the what can we do about that, right?
Right.
Obviously, um, there's lots of great therapy that you can
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
Um, there's certainly in um, other scenarios, there's drugs and prescriptions that are very effective for
Hmm.
treating this. But there was a study that shows that physical activity can be 1.5 times more effective
Yeah.
than medication or counseling efforts, which
That is amazing to
that's a
think
big
about.
lever.
Hmm.
So when I think about this, and I know it's hard, so it's like I don't want to again
Hmm.
be kind of
Right.
preachy about a particular
Right. Exactly.
method because it is really hard to
Right.
get up and do these things. But um, if you were presented with the choice, like, hey, there's these two routes, one might be 1.5 times more effective than the other, you'd probably choose the one with the
That's more
higher
effective.
the
Yeah.
higher likelihood of working.
Right.
Um,
Well, and I think too that, when we talk about all of our traditional methods for dealing with stress, anxiety, and depression are so used right now. We can't find people. There are so many people in need that the supply and demand of psychologists, psychiatrists, health people they're really, really, really stretched. So it's very
Absolutely.
hard. It's very hard to even find somebody, and you may not be able to get in for a long time. So if that's true,
Yeah,
um,
right. You can't
yeah,
do those things. You can't prescribe those things to yourself.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
you
So it is
can't
an alternative that you can do immediate. You
that
can
you
start
can do
literally now.
yourself. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they're talking about there's this exercise program where they had patients exercise 3 times a week for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
which frankly isn't
Right.
a lot of time. 3 times a week is a good amount of exercising, but
Yeah.
for only 2 weeks, 95% reported improved mood, 91 said they were pleased with how their body felt, and
Mm.
63% said they were happy or very happy.
Wow.
And
Wow.
for me personally, again, I'm not trying to get super ripped or anything, but um, when I feel more physically fit,
Yeah.
I feel I like my mood is so much better. I feel much more proud about myself.
Confident. You feel more
Yeah.
confident. You could,
Yep.
and yep, you do. You have a different mindset. You have a different relationship with how you talk to yourself. You have a different relationship when you look in the mirror. I mean,
Yep.
it's all of those things.
It's all that stuff is connected.
Yeah.
The TED talk you sent me was the title
Oh
was
yeah, I forgot I sent it.
warning, watching this may improve your focus. um, yeah. So
That's right. And it was all about exercise.
it was
She
all about
tricked
exercise,
us.
and she was taking an approach again, kind of like back in the at work, right? This will help you focus and be more productive at work. But the phrase that I keyed in on that she said that I thought was so great is physical activity is the most transformative thing you can do to have immediate effects on your brain.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yes. Profound.
Right? Like if I have a headache and take Advil, that takes a while to kick in.
Hmm.
Other longer term medicines take maybe days or weeks to kick in.
Right.
The interesting thing about physical activity is it's now. It's
It's
immediate.
immediate. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think this gives people something to think about. The one thing I want to really, 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 really stress here though, is that this is not meant to make you feel bad because you aren't doing it. And this is not meant to make you feel guilty because you used to and you aren't anymore. Or, I think it's just, I would say if you can enter into this thought, conversation more with the thought of, could this help? And what's something simple that I can do? What's something that I enjoy doing that I don't have to overly guilt myself into?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all about that relationship with the story you're telling yourself about exercise. If you can shift your relationship with how you think about exercise, it can do wonders for the rest of you and how you think about everything else.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
great.
the key, right? It's
Yeah.
like really think about what is your relationship with your thoughts about exercise and just moving your body. And maybe you just haven't found the thing that you really like yet.
Yeah.
I did not find yoga until I was in my 40s, and that is my thing. I absolutely love it. And it's hard, and I enjoy it though. And it's like I crave it. I couldn't find a single exercise that I felt that same way
Mm.
about until then.
Yeah, I like this. It's like be curious,
Yeah.
start small,
Yeah,
have fun.
exactly.
Have fun.
Have fun. Yes, exactly.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.